Fleetwood Mac, my roommate's dead. Fungus fermentation. Another Wonka reboot, JFK's assassination.
It's not my favorite topic, just my brain's current fixation.
Hyperfocus.
Hyperfocus, a neurodivergent podcast.
Hello, everybody. This is Virginia Dickens here with another episode of Hyperfocus, a neurodivergent podcast. And I'm here with a very good friend and writer and comedian, Brandon Follick.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, living large.
Thank you so much for doing this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Oh my God, of course.
And so we're going to each dive into hyperfixations of ours. First, we're going to talk about Brandon's hyperfocus, which is witches in media, on TV and in movies. And then later, my hyperfocus, which is going to be about Martha Stewart's ex-boyfriend, Charles Simonyi. But first, I like to start off the podcast just by first chatting about what it's been like for you being neurodivergent.
I think I was saying this earlier. I've always been like this. So it took me some time to be like, oh yeah, you're operating on a different frequency from what's standard in society. I remember being diagnosed. I mean, I was diagnosed for several things, but mostly major depression, remission, and general anxiety disorder, in therapy. And that was huge. And also that at least gave me a path forward to figure out how to remediate that.
Totally. Yeah. I was reading too on Reddit. Someone had said anxiety and depression are unwelcome hitchhikers with ADHD.
Totally.
And I thought that was a really good description of how it all can kind of manifest and show up so similarly.
Yeah. I also struggle with the ADD diagnosis because I don't know. I feel I'm very manic and hyperfunctional, The framework around it is focus and attention, right? And I'm I can perform functions without too much deviation of focus and whatnot, but it's more to the emotional responses of what people describe with ADD. Then I'm I identify so hard with that. Mm-hmm. Do you have the thing where if you ever knock something down onto the floor, sudden rage?
I get that if other people do that.
Okay, sure.
I mean, I hate loud noises. So if it's my upstairs neighbor drops something or a loud sudden noise freaks me out, and it takes me a long time to emotionally recover from that.
Yeah. It's jarring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I do it, I mean, it depends, I think, on the day and the circumstances and what I drop and when I drop it. And
yeah.
But is it always that for you?
For the most part, yeah. Because I think I just kind of expect, let's say I'm carrying something from one room into the other. I have a pretty set expectation of how that's supposed to go. If I drop it, full on disappointment with myself.
Oh yeah, you just start spiraling.
Yeah,
I'm better than this.
I'm a fucking course. Here goes Murphy's Law.
Well, are you ready to get started on your hyperfocus?
Oh yes.
Okay, take it away because witches in television. This is not generally my genre.
Okay, I've mostly been thinking about it because I really love genre TV. So I've been watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the first time ever.
Ooh, okay, fun.
So good. I don't know if anyone needs to hear this in November 2024, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a great show. Check it out. It's kind of an indie watch. I'm at a part now where one of the major characters didn't start off in the series as a witch, was just kind of the smart Hermione Granger friend of the group who is intelligent, resourceful, creative, supportive, loyal. And then over time started diving more into the dark magics, using some of those powers to carry out some of the plot lines and whatnot. And I don't know how accurate it is to what the pagans would say out there, but
right.
I've been thinking a lot about it too because we're now on the onset of the Wiccan movie. What was the other thing?
Oh, and Agatha.
Off the heels of Agatha all along. So yeah, I think witches in media have been having a huge moment recently.
Well, Buffy is, so I guess I never thought of Buffy as a witch.
It's a character, her best friend in it.
Her best friend is a witch.
Willow, who is played by Allison Hannigan.
Okay. Allison Hannigan is the witch. Can Allison Hannigan also slay vampires?
Yeah, I think theoretically any of them could slay vampires. In the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Buffy is, I guess in every generation of the Slayer lineage, there's always one person who's imbued with super strength and speed and the ability to heal very quickly. Mm-hmm. So Buffy has those powers. However, anyone can slay a vampire.
Got it.
She's just the most adept at it.
Duh. Isn't it garlic and a stick of wood will kill a vampire?
Wood and stick through the heart,
yeah. So we could kill a vampire if we wanted.
Oh yeah, theoretically.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and in practice. I mean, I would love to test it out.
Yeah, I would try that out maybe. I'd start with garlic first before going to stabbing, but
Well, that's self-protectant, of course.
Oh.
That's garlic, I think that's a good sign for you to be I am not leading into harm quite yet, but I will be as a form of self-protection.
Yeah. Garlic first, stab later.
Yeah.
So then So witches are having a comeback now. So what are the big like witch things over the past couple of years you're referencing?
Okay, so the Agatha All Along series is a spin-off series of WandaVision, which
Got
came
it.
out in like 2021. And I think that was Marvel's like first, like the Marvel movie introduction into like witches. I'm not like huge in the Marvel series, sorry.
Oh, I'm not either, so it's fine.
Yeah, no shade at all. I mean, you're the only people, like, I'm talking to you Marvel fans keeping theaters alive. Thank you so much. You're like actually selling tickets so theaters can pay rent.
Is it, or is it that they only keep choosing to make those movies over and over again because like that's all we have to watch?
Tried and true, yeah. No,
That's also my other thing. I was like, I don't think we have a lot of other options. So everyone's like, fine, I'll go see like a new Spider-Man. There's already been 10 of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Hollywood is like, at this point, they're like, we will cease to exist unless you see Moana 14 and Venom 27 this fall. Like, other than that, you're done. The Marvel movies are based off comics, so I know witches appear in that. That's why I don't want to piss off the fans. Sorry.
Yeah, see, I didn't know. I didn't know there were witches.
Camera, like, it's a direct stream into their home.
I didn't know there were witches in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, it's a bit of a reveal. So,
okay.
if this podcast came out in 2021, I'd be a little more hesitant to spoil that. But
got it. It's not. It's gonna come out.
We've had time.
Sometime in 2025.
Yeah, exactly. I was into WandaVision because I heard it's predicated on the fact it's a genre parody of sitcoms. So in the beginning of the series, every episode it parodies like a sitcom of a certain decade. So I believe it starts in the 60s, like Very Leave It to Beaver, and then goes like Brady Bunch and like Malcolm in the Middle, that 70s show, Modern Family, and then like the reveal of why it's a genre parody comes like a little midway through the season.
Okay.
And this is related to Buffy in the sense that the showrunner who created the series, Jack Schaefer, definitely was coming of age like when Buffy was like the major occult leaning series at the time.
Okay.
And also one of the actors she works primarily with, Emma Caulfield, was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She plays a demon. Yeah.
Oh, fun. And so do you see like obvious influences between Buffy and WandaVision?
So yeah, like some of the like rules and systems of magic at play are definitely there. It's so interesting too, like what people decide to like make the world rules of magic as well. In Buffy, it's so hard too because it's like that series came out in like the late 90s, early 2000s when the graphics were like so lo-fi.
Yeah.
And now I just learned Agatha All Along at a budget of $30 million.
What? Wow.
In comparison to like Joker 2, which came out at $200 million.
Okay.
Damn. Yeah.
My impression of WandaVision is it's more like female oriented.
Yeah, that one has
so
like
that makes
Elizabeth
sense.
Olsen,
They pay everyone
Catherine
a lot.
Hahn. Yeah.
Pay everyone a lot less money probably than Joker 2. They're like, we need Joaquin Phoenix or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Was he in that?
He was in Joker.
I'm just
2.
saying that. I didn't see it. I have no interest in the Jokers.
Haven't seen it either. Joker also falls under those categories of movies where it's like the protagonist is like this like misunderstood auteur and now they're depressed, like because they're so misunderstood by society, and then they like have to imbue this outcastish role. Not really how I felt in my most depressed eras. Like I remember being a kid and being like, I'm simply too lethargic and like my sleep schedule is off from everything and I can't function in the school system, and everyone was like, oh, he's just kind of lazy, isn't he? Like,
yeah.
yeah, he's kind of an entitled brat, and I'm like, my chemicals are so horrifically imbalanced. Please help me.
And unfortunately, we'll never see that representation on screen because nobody wants to watch a quote unquote like lazy
sad boy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just somebody that's like, I can't get anything done.
I know. Any depiction of the sad boy is always like, oh, they're brooding. Like,
yeah, they're brooding.
There was that movie Boyhood, which I would have diagnosed depression there, but it's always like, yeah, that slippery slope of like, if they're depressed, there's like some creative depth going on.
Right. Well, that's also why people are always like, I don't want to go on medication because it's going to change me and it's going to make me, it's going to make me less funny. It's going to make me this. I mean,
it's going to dull me. It's going to like, take off all the jagged edges that make my personality so distinct.
Yeah, exactly. Which like isn't true.
I'm on a very nice dose of anti-anxieties now, and I'm like, oh my God, my life has never been better.
Wait, what do you want?
Buspar and hydroxyzine.
Okay, I was subscribed. I was prescribed hydroxyzine, I think. I was told to like take it as needed. So
yeah.
I kind of but I've forgotten to, honestly, because I told my psychiatrist that when I get anxious, I just microdose mushrooms.
Oh, cool.
And
yeah.
he was like, I'm going to prescribe you anxiety medication so you don't have to do that all the time. But actually, it's fun. I like doing it.
That's interesting, though. I mean, mushrooms are natural, and they're like, no, we're bringing you back to the lab. We're giving you the synthetic stuff.
Well, the nice part, too, about it is, like, you have to be very mindful while you do it. I might go into more of this anxiety medication, too. I think whatever tools we have at our dispense, we should use.
Yeah. I was on the antidepressants for a while to treat both, and then I was like, I feel like I have some of the more cognitive behavioral tools to like help with the depression, but the anxiety stuff is just so natural state. Like it's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't even feel like it's like a cognitive thought thing. So now I'm just on anti-anxieties, and the Beast Bar really helps with just like the day to day. But the hydroxyzine was to treat my insomnia.
Okay, how did we get here? Was it the Joker? Yeah,
You're right. It was
'cause
the Joker.
Because the Joker's like a sad, depressed person.
Yeah, kind of like the outcast.
Well, because it's interesting too, because it's like everyone has, I think, like a sad origin story also. Because
Totally,
like
yeah.
Batman also has a sad origin story. Probably also was like a depressed little boy.
Oh yeah,
Like I feel
yeah, a
like
little recluse in his cave. Yeah,
yeah, recluse in his cave. Everyone has their own little trauma stuff, and then they like emerge, quote unquote, good or evil. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good segue because the other thing I wanted to talk about with witches is I feel like all the like modern adaptations of witchcraft are leaning into grief, and it's always the like usage of childbirth complications in their stories in order to explain how they like entered witchcraft. Have you seen Wicked or like?
I'm familiar with Wicked.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So like that story starts off with 2 childbirth incidents actually, where like Elphaba, the main character, is born green.
And that's because her mom had an affair.
Her mom had an affair with who would turn out to be the Wizard of Oz, who was giving her some type of like elixir, like a snake oil salesman or whatever. And then her mother, as a precaution for her next child, was taking some other substance as like a form of natal care. And then it like impacted her little sister's leg development. And then also the mother died during childbirth. And then the father had a lot of resentment for Elphaba, the main character, for like causing all this.
Damn. Okay.
Um,
I never read the book, but is that all in the book?
I also never read the book, but that is in
that
the musical.
All of that's in the musical?
Yeah.
Where have I been?
Like
Wow.
opening number. You're gonna love it. No, check out the movie.
No, I know the music. I was talking to a friend the other day that I was like, I know all the music to Wicked, and I like don't know the plot. And I think I just like didn't pay attention to the plot basically at all because I was just like vibing out to the music too much.
I mean, Stephen
Yeah.
Schwartz was absolutely doing it. Like he was working in that album. But yeah, I mean the plot's so good. It's worth revisiting. And
Yeah,
we'll get
no,
to
I
it.
will. Yeah, I know. I know.
And then Agatha All Along and WandaVision both like stem from grief,
Mm-hmm.
particularly around children. It's a very unclear, like, there is an origin story in Agatha, who's Catherine Hahn's character, where it's up for debate whether she had some type of miscarriage or like other like childbirth complication, and that is what exacerbated a lot of initial witchcraft tendencies and like her motives.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm like, oh, here are these like very like humanized elements of trauma and grief and pain. And then in order for these women to escape the reality of that situation, like they have to enter this mode of surreal magic.
Yeah.
And like manipulating and controlling their environment because they didn't have control over it prior.
That's an interesting theme. Is that like, are those the main ones you've noticed that with, or?
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah,
But still, that's like
I'm
that's like
collecting
a
the data.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if
definitely.
you like counterpoint it to like superheroes or their origin stories, like all tend to be a little bit different. I think maybe
yeah.
like a lot grounded in some form of grief, perhaps, or like a tragedy, maybe. But like
I mean, Peter Parker's like on a field trip. Like,
yeah, he gets like bit by a spider. Superheroes like have more varied origin stories, whereas that seems like interesting that overlaps these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point too. Where I didn't think about that. Where like a lot of the like male, especially superheroes, there's some form of like bravery. Like they had to overcome some obstacle that was presented in front of them. Where like a lot of these women are like, it's cast as their fault, right? And this is like their response to it.
Or it's like internal too, or like it's something like I immediately thought of like, especially with like childbirth, that just like fucks up your hormones and like
Oh, sure,
no
yeah.
one knows. Like I feel like it's still just kind of a big mystery of like we'll see what happens when you mess with your hormones. Like a gazillion things could happen or go wrong too, but that's also just like an internal thing.
Yeah.
That's like just your body, and that makes it feel like it's like you said, like it's almost like their own fault that they're witches. Kind
Yeah,
of.
totally. And then like society's response to witches, like historically, has been like, there will be a witch hunt, there will be a trial, like you'll be put through trials, and then like with Batman, it's like we're actually gonna put you on the front page of the newspaper. Congrats! Like it's so. I guess he was a little more like seen as a vigilante, whatnot, but
Right, and these witches,
they have to like fight back against society for like existence.
yeah, exactly.
so
They're already
fascinating.
shot, and like so, like for like WandaVision, Agatha, these witches are fighting evil.
Yeah, and they themselves are evil as well. It depends on their motives,
it.
absolutely. But there are other witches in like those series that are less evilly motivated.
Okay, so maybe that's also a part of it too. They're not
And
as-
then Willow has a huge arc in Buffy the Vampire Slayer where she has like a huge evil motive. It's like born out of like vengeance.
got it. It almost feels more like human in a way too.
Yeah,
Like, I
totally.
mean, obviously they're not superheroes, quote unquote, like superhuman, but they're prone to the whims of if it's a vengeance or like I might be more evil because I need revenge, but I might not always be evil because I'm not feeling vengeful today.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. It's like the opposite of like internalizing the depression.
Yeah, it's externalizing the depression.
Yeah, truly. Like they are carrying it out. Absolutely. I've been thinking a lot about that. I'm coming up on the last season of Buffy. It's of course, I'm preemptively grieving.
How many seasons is it?
7.
Okay.
And this is like pre like '07 writer's strike when
Yeah.
like, you know, there were 20 some episodes a season.
So you got a lot
there
to
were
go
40
through.
some
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah, it's rich in footage. But we're coming up at the end of it.
But okay, are you ready to discuss Martha Stewart's ex-boyfriend?
Yeah, I would in fact love a little briefing synopsis on him as well, if you can offer me such.
Oh, yes, 100%. So Martha Stewart, as we all know, there's a documentary on Netflix, but there's also a separate one on Discovery Plus. I've watched both of them.
Yeah.
There's like one that's Many Lives of Martha, and then the Netflix one is called just Martha. And I love Martha Stewart. And I always forget, I used to work for her.
Whoa, really?
In college, I interned at Martha Stewart Living Omnimedia because their office is over in Chelsea at the Starlight Lee building. And I was like a digital intern. They paid me $20 a day. And I wrote copy for like the website.
A paid internship. Under Martha Stewart.
Under Martha
at
Stewart.
A time when many weren't.
And she was around the office, you know, she was hanging around. I love her because she's just done everything.
Yeah.
Like truly everything. She was like a successful model as a teenager, and then she was like a super successful stockbroker.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So she got married when she was 19. She went to Barnard, met her husband, Andrew Stewart. Got married at 19, had a baby at 20. Her father-in-law was a stockbroker, and that got her into the stock market. She was like the only woman there.
Wow.
And she was like, I think the reason she got the job was because she's beautiful. Like, she's hot. We'll let her work in the stock market.
Yeah.
And then she was like very successful at that. Got tired of it. They bought a house in Connecticut, and then she fixed up the house, and then was like, I'm going to start a catering company, and then started her fucking empire.
She's so business mindset.
She's just crazy. She just makes like the best, like every situation she's in, she makes the best of it. When she like goes to prison, and just
my gosh,
she like
it's
owns
time.
it, and then she continues to just rebrand herself and stay relevant. And I just think she's the best. But so the one documentary, Martha, was definitely, she had input. They interviewed her personally.
This is the Netflix one.
This is the Netflix one.
Okay. She's been very like publicly judgmental of it. Didn't she like go on late night or something? And she was like,
Yeah,
another.
that also is just her, I think. Like,
Sure.
she's critical of literally everything, which is also, I think, why I like her.
Yeah, I mean, it fits within her mold of like everything's a business opportunity, where I'm like, her life will be constantly mined for documentaries.
Oh, yes. And she was like pretty vulnerable at moments with this as well. And so her first husband, who I mentioned, Andy, they were married for 15 years. They got a divorce in 1990.
Okay.
And it was like, and she was heartbroken because I guess he was like having affairs or whatnot. At one point he like had an affair with someone on her staff, but then also they were like, well, Martha, didn't you have an affair? And she was like, that doesn't count.
Yeah. Okay, this was a huge soundbite. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, I don't count that. That's not what that was, though. And we're like, okay, whatever. Because like, I think that's when he had kind of started to see other people, was when he had found out about that had happened way in like her early 20s.
Got it.
And like, yeah, she did get married like so young. So then she's, on the scene dating. And so the next guy that she dates, his name is Charles Simonyi. And he essentially created Microsoft Office and is deemed like the father of Excel.
Whoa.
And so she thinks he's a genius, obviously. Yeah, he was like one of the first, I think, 10 employees of Microsoft. Worked there forever with like Bill Gates, obviously, and then like left to make his own company that then just essentially sold those products back to Microsoft for like an ungodly amount of money. I mean, he's a
Totally, yeah.
billionaire.
Oh my gosh. He's the father of Clippy, first of all.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what drew her in.
Yeah.
He was the 5th person to like go to space as like a tourist, or like to visit space as like a
Martha Stewart's second husband?
No, not second husband, ex-boyfriend. They never got married.
Okay. Ex-boyfriend was the person to go to space recreationally. So insane.
He went twice, I think. It was like, it cost him a total of $60 million to go to space. She was very supportive of
Yeah.
it. She like went to the launch.
Going to space used to mean something in this country.
It did, yeah.
Like,
she planned his like meals, like for his space meals.
she's catering.
Exactly.
The craft. It's so funny.
And so they meet in 1993, they become friends. And then I think like by 97, that's when people are kind of like, oh, they're sort of like,
They're an item.
they're maybe an item. They keep kind of just saying we're friends, but they're, dates to like everyone's +1, like famous weddings and stuff. And they're just seen around. He like supports her through the whole trial of going to prison and was like, that was a witch hunt, like sort of
Yeah,
thing.
no,
I mean,
truly.
it really was. She shouldn't have gone to prison.
Yeah, talk about someone magical and powerful.
Fuck you, James Comey. Actually,
God.
also fuck you, Charles. But we'll get to that later. He stood by her side through the whole trial, through all of that. But then, like, when she was in prison, I think only visited her like one time. And there's an email that she had written, like, I haven't heard from you. It'd be like really nice to hear from you. It's like very sad.
Wait, when did she write while she was in prison?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting.
She could check emails in her prison. I don't know.
Yeah. I believe it. I didn't know this.
Yeah, it was not by no means like a fancy. I mean, I think it was branded as like, this is like a nice prison, quote unquote, but it was still like pretty shitty. In the documentary, she was just like, obviously, she's like, the food fucking sucked. Like, she hated the food, as anyone probably would.
Didn't she get her sentence like shortened?
Probably. She may have. Yeah. Was she there for 8 months or less? So she made friends in prison. She like helped people with like their gardens. She like, again, made the best of like the situation. But Charles only visited her one time, and then he sent his private jet to pick her up.
Oh my gosh.
When she got out of prison. So she gets out of prison in 2005, and they stay together until 2008 is when ultimately they break up. And how they break up is what like shocked me. They're on a trip together, visiting the president of Iceland.
Sure.
As you do. As you do.
I didn't know they were so tight.
And he's like one of those like, there's a whole other world of like not so public, rich people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That I'm always like, duh, of course you would know the president of Iceland. So,
I mean, the alarming number of people who knew Jeffrey Epstein, like.
Right, yeah. So the two of them they're on a trip to visit the president of Iceland. They're in bed. And Charles goes, I think I'm going to marry Lisa. Also, her family doesn't want me to talk to you anymore. And Martha was like, who is Lisa?
Right, yeah.
And then I was like, who the fuck is Lisa? It was so bad. She had no idea about any of this. That was it for them. And she refers to this as her second divorce. Like, she was heartbroken.
Totally, yeah.
That's a 15-year relationship that he was just like, I think I'm going to marry Lisa.
Yeah,
And Lisa,
I mean, she sounds like she was in a marriage de facto, absolutely. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. And so then I'm like, yeah, who the fuck is Lisa? Lisa was like 32 years younger than Charles, and just like the daughter of some like Swedish millionaires. And there's not much information on her.
We don't know when they got together.
We don't know when they got together.
Okay.
No, it's all very private. And like, she doesn't do any. She's like a philanthropist, as you are.
Yeah.
If you're if you have a rich dad. You
Yeah,
know?
you're like, I have a foundation,
Yeah, exactly. I do charity work, whatever.
Yeah.
And they live in Washington State and have 2 kids. And they're still together, which is, kind of crazy. And now he's
Does Martha talk about them?
No. Well, she talks in the documentary. She talks about that breakup.
Okay.
And how it felt like her second divorce. And she was like, I can't understand how you could do that to somebody.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for her too, because, well, clearly like they go into her childhood, and because of her childhood, like she's not good at expressing emotions and like sharing those. And even like in the documentary, she's like, I'm not really that interested in asking how like Charles is feeling. I don't care to know about that. Like she's very stunted emotionally in a lot of ways, but also you can tell like she's like, I'm a romantic at heart. Like she like wants this kind of connection with people too. You can just kind of see her blocks, I think. So then I was like also looking up other people she's dated. She dated Anthony Hopkins briefly.
The actor?
Okay. In the early 90s. But she had to stop dating him because she couldn't get past Hannibal Lecter.
Once you see Hannibal Lecter, it's really hard to unsee that.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, I can't be alone in my house with you. I think you're going to eat me or something.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go to the basement. Like, it's,
And then I looked to see I Googled if she ever dated Snoop Dogg, and the internet defiantly says no. And then I Googled, has she ever hooked up with Snoop Dogg? And the internet also defiantly said no. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. She's super hot. Like, she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated last year.
Yeah.
And she was like
She looked
81 years
amazing.
old. Yeah, she looks so good. It's also that classic thing of like, because like Charles was with her through her whole rise, like of her whole empire.
Oh yeah.
2 billionaires.
Kind of silently too.
Mm-hmm. 2 billionaire status, like,
system.
and she's a couple years older than him too. And so it's like, again, it's that classic, like a man that stands by his powerful woman.
Yeah.
Who's
knows his place.
Knows his place. Da, 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 and then he's like, never mind, I'm gonna go marry Lisa.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, you're gonna do what? Like Lisa, who doesn't do anything interesting and doesn't have her own empire and doesn't probably know how to make a pie and like.
Yeah, but Martha had to work for that. Maybe he wanted the easy route.
That's what I mean.
Like, he
That's what I
just-
mean.
yeah.
It's like I'm just gonna toss away 15. He stood by her while if you're gonna dip while she's in prison.
Okay,
It
what
did
was
seem
my
like
theory?
yeah.
Is
What's your
that he
theory?
met Lisa while he was in prison, didn't want to visit her because of maybe a place of guilt. He didn't want to bring it up. He's like, oh my God, this is a bad time for Martha. Or I personally like don't have the emotional capacity to have this conversation with her behind a glass pane.
Possibly.
You know, that's gonna go ahead and be my theory.
But Martha got out in 2005, and this ended in 2008.
Well, maybe
So they continued for
maybe
3
they called
more
it off
years.
for a little.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's hard to say. Wait, what was the time difference in between Martha's second divorce and I want to know the time gap between like Charles and Martha breaking up and Charles and Lisa marrying.
I think he married her 6 months later.
Oh, they've known each other for years.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading that 6 months later they got married. Well, because obviously if it's like, I'm going to marry Lisa and her family doesn't want me to talk to you anymore, the family is also like aware of his relationship
There
with
was some
Martha
back and
Stewart.
forth, yeah.
But they're so private, like I can't get any more information out of it.
Yeah, that's so interesting too because she's so high profile.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the cutoff for like people who are like into Martha Stewart? Do you think like Gen Z has like a fascination with her? Or she's kind of like millennials and upwards.
I think she's embraced social media very well.
True.
I could see her definitely like being in with Gen Z, especially too like did the whole pivot with Snoop Dogg. They like have a show together, or
Yeah.
they did.
Oh, they had like a media franchise together. Like
Not that Snoop Dogg is like also the biggest like Gen Z icon, but it's just a different angle. But I even think just staying relevant with like our generation, when she was literally building her empire in the 80s, which is before our generation.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's still such a wide span of people.
I'm curious if her politics have developed over time too. The whole like Martha Snoop Dogg thing too. He's very openly discussing cannabis legalization and recreational use.
Well, I think that's just her being really smart and knowing how to stay relevant.
Yeah.
Is like seeing how weed in society is being treated, and I want to position myself into this zeitgeist. But that does remind me of politics. I forgot to mention Charles Simonyi allegedly was one of the few notable early supporters of Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, where he made a maximum primary donation of $2,700 in 2015. And then he went on to contribute $200,000 to Trump's 2020 presidential campaign.
Martha, congratulations. You got out of that.
Yeah,
That's
you dodged a bullet, Martha.
disgusting.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my gosh,
and
of course.
chatting
Thank you for
about-
having me. It was the time of my life.
Yes,
It
always.
was genuinely so fun.
Always such a pleasure to chat with you. Brandon Follick is a New York City-based comedian, and you can find him on Instagram at Brandon_Follick and keep up with shows he's on or things he's written. And the Instagram handle for the show is at Hyperfocus Comedy for updates there as well. There's also a Patreon if you feel like supporting the show. And I'm Virginia Dickens, and this has been Hyperfocus, a neurodivergent podcast.